Hi, this is going to be a yoga practice for runners or people who do other kind of workouts and find it hard to target certain areas that they need to kind of stretch or open up. And the thing with runners, especially in running, is that there are really certain criteria that your body needs to be a successful runner and not have recurring injuries. Um, Flexibility in your calves, your hamstrings, in the glutes and around the hips. You need flexibility and mobility or movement in your hip area. And then you need stability in and around your pelvis. So to protect your back. So your core and your trunk need to be really solid. You need stability around that pelvis when your limbs are moving, and you need mobility in the hips so that your back doesn't try and take over some of the movement, and you need flexibility in the soft tissue in the legs. So we're going to kind of be targeting that in particular. Even if you're not a runner, a lot of us still kind of need that and will benefit from opening up in those areas and strengthening and stabilizing around the pelvis. So we're going to start on our backs. So laying on your back, we're going to start off super basic. We're going to bring those knees into the chest and just rock side to side. Just close the eyes for a moment. Bring all your attention in on yourself. Another key component of running being your breathing and your breath control, which obviously yoga can really help with. So letting go of those hug knees, letting the feet fall down to the earth, and maybe put your feet out to the edges of the mat and the knees fall together in the middle. Putting one hand on the belly and one hand on the chest. And just tuning into your breath. In and out of the nostrils and allowing it to be rhythmic and constant and equal. Let the inhales and exhales be nice and measured and equal. Feeling your shoulders peel back and down towards the mat. With your hands on the belly and on the chest, or kind of feeling how your hand might be resting around the sternum, on the ribs. Let's just check in with how we align. So we have our knees bent, so there should be no pull on the pelvis. Just noticing where we align our pelvis. Are we in neutral? And we're laying down on our back, so there's no real effort. There's no pull on the low back. Our knees are bent. Noticing how to notice this will be, is there a gap between your back and the mat? And there should be. So your natural curves, there should be a little gap there when you're in neutral. Next, let's notice what our rib cage is doing. So I'm moving my upper hand from my chest. And I'm noticing that my ribs are flared. So when we want to activate our abdominals, so it's easy in this position, we pull our ribs down without holding our breath. So I'm not bracing, I'm not filling up my abdomen with air and bracing. I'm just pulling my ribs down using my abdominals. I'm still able to talk and breathe normally. And my ribs are no longer flared. So I activated the upper abdominals to pull those ribs down. I can feel a little gap between my low back and the mat, and my pelvis is in neutral. So this is where you want your pelvis to be, how you want your ribs to be when you're in more challenging poses like upright lunges, and obviously for that to translate over to when you're running. So that's difficult for you right now. Just kind of practice in this position. Let's gently flutter the eyes open, put our hands on our hips. That's really on our pelvis. And just if you need to play around with experimenting with flattening your back out, but there's no change in your breath. So find your belly button, and you can find your like sternum. And when you flatten out your pelvis, your belly button and your hands on your sternum should get closer together because you've tilted your pelvis. And then the alternative would be tilting your pelvis forward, making a huge arch in your back, as if you're trying to get a cushion out from under your back. You arch your back up more, take a cushion out. So experiment with being able to find where that midpoint is, neutral. And we're going to find that again when we're in our lunges and when we're in our tabletop. So from here, let's bring in those knees again. Let's start to work on a little bit of hip mobility, a little bit of opening the legs. Let's bring both legs up in the air for a moment, nice and straight. Our feet are flexed. Let's do arms up, dead bug. Just flex. Pump those ankles for a moment. And then bringing the hands back down. Let's bring the left leg all the way down, keeping the right leg up. I'm going to grab behind my thigh. Obviously, we haven't warmed up yet, so don't worry, just big old bend in that knee. We're starting to open up the hamstring a little bit and behind the legs. If you have a strap, you can always put it around your foot and stretch a little bit there. And then from here, I'm going to bend my left foot, or my left knee rather, putting the foot on the mat. And I'm going to set up for reclined pigeon. So I'm in that figure 4 position, my right ankle resting on my left thigh. I'm going to reach through and grab behind my left leg. And I'm going to rock side to side for a moment. For me, it helps to open up my hip. My feet are flexed. And I'm going to settle into stillness in the middle and just really work on the breath. Nice and strong in the breath. And then I'm going to release that back down. Bring my right foot down. I'm going to walk my feet nice and close to my behind. I'm just going to put my hands down and lift up into a little bridge. So I'm lifting up into the bridge. So the glutes or behind the hips is really important for running too. When your glutes fatigue, your other muscles basically start to take over and can start to kind of do funny things with your pelvis and your back and kind of put your back out or notice your back hurting later on. Stay nice and strong in the bridge. This is also good for opening up the front of those quads. And let's lower back down. Let's bring the right leg flat and bring the left leg straight up. Grab behind the thigh. I'm just pulling that a little bit towards the chest, but we're not lifting the head, the shoulders, or anything like that. And just breathe into that little bit of opening. You can use a strap again around that foot if you want. Nice and strong in the breath. And then let's bend the right knee and place that foot down and set up for our figure 4 recline pigeon on the other side. I'm going to go straight into it. Reach behind my right leg. I'm flexing my feet. I'm going to kind of wiggle side to side to allow that left hip to start to open. And then settle into stillness in the middle and breathe. So a nice measured breath. The longer you stay, and if you're really releasing, even after 4 or 5 breaths, sometimes you'll start to feel like a new opening in the side of that hip. So you're feeling this in the left hip. And you shouldn't be in a position that you're straining so hard. So I'm kind of letting my right leg kind of hang out in the hammock of my hands. And then let's release that all together. Let's hold behind our legs and just roll up and down the spine all the way till we come up into sitting. We're going to come into a comfortable seated position first. We're going to go straight into some Sufi circles. Hold your knees and just opening up the hips a little bit more. So the upper body is kind of rotating around on the foundation of the lower body. Pause in neutral and change direction. Come back up through center, tall spine. Put the soles of the feet together. Make sure you're on your sitting bones so you're not rotated back or rounding out. If you are, sit up on top of something. So I have a kind of diamond shape in the legs. I'm going to hold on to my ankles. I'm kind of just going to rock side to side for a moment to open up those hips. You can even kind of like flap the wings of your butterfly. Then you can hold on to the feet or the ankles and just do a very gentle forward fold. Opening up behind the legs and around the hips. Don't worry about rounding out. We're just starting to warm up. So obviously this isn't going to be a very deep fold for some. Coming back up on your next exhale. We're going to swing those legs around. We're going to come into our tabletop. Set up those hands and knees. We're going to come first of all, actually, you know what, let's set the hands out in front of it and do some hip circles first. Always helpful, especially if you were running like that morning or the day before. And then just come back up into a normal tabletop. We're going to work a little bit on hip mobility. My hips are quite tight at the moment, so it's actually going to be quite true to life for doing the yoga for runners. So what we're going to do is, just like I was saying about the pelvis, cinch in your ribs, but I'm not holding my breath. Cinch in your ribs and flatten your back so that your pelvis is neutral. Okay, so your belly is tucked in and the back is not down in a curve and you're not rounded out, but you're in that little spot, right, that in neutral. So from here, let's get that right leg. Let's kick it straight back first with a flexed ankle and work on being able to still keep your ribs cinched in and your back relatively flat. So that's the first step. So it took me a few seconds to kind of figure out that I was leaning. What was I doing with my ribs? What am I doing at my neck? So my neck is still long, kicking that leg back. I'm going to bend it back down, but I'm not going to touch the ground. And I come straight out to the side for that fire hydrant. So we're working on the abductors, side of the hip, really important. Let's kick that leg straight back again. So you work and bring the knee forward. So the knee's down, knees out to the side, kick it back into a straight leg and bring it back down again. So you're working on being able to have a relatively neutral pelvis, activated core, and ribs cinched down. So the trunk is solid while your leg is moving. Now, you can kind of see why this would be important for running. Your anchor needs to be nice and solid. And let's rest that right leg down. Kind of reset if you need to. Take some weight off your wrists for a moment. And then let's set up for the other side. So nice long spine. Let's kick that leg back first. Kind of find your kind of neutral. Cinch in your ribs. When you feel happy with that, you're going to bring your knee down, then go up to fire hydrant, kick it back, bring your knee down. And you can slow it down as much as you want. You don't need to wait for my cue. I'm just moving through the motions. Knee forward, knee to the side, kick the leg back straight. And I'm just like working on my own form. So I'm trying to get my ribs cinched in. I'm trying to get my pelvis nice and secure and stop all the motion that's happening around, which is instability, and that can carry over into my running. And this is a nice one also, just for getting that external rotation in the hips, which can be tight on a lot of people. And back into my tabletop. I'm gonna sit back on my heels for a moment and just flex and extend the wrists rather. So flex and extend, take the weight off the wrist just for a moment. And then come back into your tabletop. So from tabletop here, let's go into our down dog. So what we're going to do is work on stretching out the back. So obviously down dog is great for our hamstrings and our calves. And I'm going to tuck my toes in. We're going to do a few bounces first. So we're going to bounce, bounce, bounce. And then keeping the bend in the knee first. Let's get the upper body set up. So my crown of the head is down. My spine is long. And then when I'm happy with the upper body, I'm going to start to pump out those ankles. Keep breathing. pumping out those ankles. Alrighty, let's start to move a bit. So let's pull forward into our plank. So plank again, see what your ribs are doing. See if you feel like your core is activated, your belly button is kind of tucked in, your neck is long, ribs are cinched in. Let's come straight back into down dog. Pump out those heels. And let's push our ankles, or our heels rather, down towards the mat. Let's walk our hands back towards the feet. And let's do a nice big forward fold, holding on to our ankles and dropping the head low. And then letting go of our ankles, walk our hands back out into our down dog. We're gonna actually from our down dog, lift our right leg nice and high. Again, working on our hip mobility. And let's just draw circles with our big toe with that right leg up in the air. Working on pushing the left heel down while working on mobility in the right hip. And then look at our hands and let's step the right foot all the way through. Drop the back knee. So this is called runner's lunge. It's also a good place to kind of pump forward and back a little bit, starting to open up the front of the left leg. Let's drop the back knee and come all the way up into this low lunge. So this is a nice one for opening the front of the body. I'm going to put my arms into cactus arms for a moment. Small lean back, but you can just stay nice and neutral. So in this neutral spot in the middle is where, again, we're thinking about what are our ribs doing, what's our pelvis doing. When your hip is tight at the start, your pelvis is going to tilt forward. Let's keep those arms up. As you open up in the front of the hip, it's easier to keep your pelvis neutral. So don't worry if it's kind of feels impossible right now. Let's frame that front foot again. Step that foot back. You can go through your vinyasa flow or you can just tilt forward, knees, chest, and chin. Inhale into cobra. Tuck the toes back into your down dog. Pump those heels. Strong the breath. Then lift that left leg up and draw circles with your big toe on the left. Keeping nice and solid in the other 3 limbs. And then look up with your hands, step your left foot all the way up. Let's rock in our runner's lunge for a moment, opening up the right hip. Drop the back knee, untuck the toes, come all the way up. Work on tucking in your rib cage. Pelvis as nice and neutral as you can. So mine is tilted forward, but it's because I'm tight here. As I open up, it's easier for me to tuck that back. Arms are up, getting a nice stretch. Let's bring those hands back down. Left foot back, you can go through your flow, or just do your knees, chest, and chin. You can do a baby cobra or an up dog. And then let's tuck the toes. You come back into our down dog. I'm gonna look up with my hands, jump up, halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, hold those ankles and pull your chest down. Crown of the head, point to the ground. You're not holding your head up here. Shake your head, yes and no. Start to flatten the back, bring the hands out. Reverse swan dive up. Bring your hands together at the top and bring it into prayer at heart center. So we're here in our mountain pose or Tadasana. Gives you a chance to check in with your breath again. Get nice and solid. Reach up, small back bend, flat back, swan dive. Inhale, halfway lift, exhale. Set up your hands again. Let's bring our right foot all the way back. Rock forward and back for a moment. And then from here, let's come all the way up into our crescent lunge. So again, you're checking in. You can bring your hands down like I am. Find your ribs, kind of cinch them in. Kind of notice what your pelvis is doing. Again, a lot of your pelvic position is going to be how tight that hip is on the right. Arms up when you're ready. Focus and breathe. So I can feel as I breathe, the right hip opening more. Let's bring those hands back down. And instead of Instead of going into a flow or anything vinyasa, get that right foot, step it halfway up and straight into a pyramid. So pyramid, the attempt is to straighten the front leg. My feet are not on the same road. And my back heel is down, the toes pointing up to the top corner. It's okay to have a bit of a bend in that front leg, as most of us will need. But just drop the head best you can, using your hands for a bit of support. And from here, you can bring that right foot back all the way. So you're back in your runner's lunge on the left. Step your left foot back, go through your vinyasa flow. And meet you back in down dog. Really getting the heart through the hands and pushing the heels down. Look up at the hands, jump. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, grab your ankles, pull the heart down. And then reverse swan dive all the way up. Hands together at the top, hands in prayer at heart center. One round of breath, and then inhale, hands up, swan dive down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. This time, grab your big toes. Pull your head and your chest down. Let there be a bend in your knees. Don't worry about straight legs. You will be stretching at the back anyway. Letting go of those toes. Let's bring our left foot back this time. In our runner's lunge briefly, and then let's come all the way up into our crescent lunge. Again, what do your ribs do? So what is your trunk doing when it's challenged or when you're trying to be stable? Because you want your trunk and your pelvis to be able to get real stable. We're opening up the front of that hip. Nice and focused. Let's bring those hands down to frame the front foot. And stepping about halfway up the left foot, foot down. Straightening out the right leg a little bit, and I'm folding into my pyramid. Drop the head. Allowing yourself, as the breath continues, you're letting go a little bit more. Keep those fingertips on the ground. Start to look up. Bring that left foot back. Runner's lunge, palms down. Plank. Come through your flow. Inhale, up dog for everyone now. Nice stretch in the front of the hips. Tuck the toes back into your down dog. Nice and releasing in your exhales. Let's bring our right leg up in the air again. And this time let's bend the knee and kind of kick that foot over across the midline, across the left hip. Opening up that right hip. If you want to flip your dog here, now's a good time. Otherwise, push that left heel down towards the mat and continue to open up your right leg in the air. If you flipped your dog, come back around to down dog. Let's all line up that right leg high in the air. And then let's just bring that right foot all the way down. I'm going to bring my feet close together for a moment. Shift forward into plank. Bring my right foot right under my face and come into a side plank. So side plank is good because it has to work on the alignment of the trunk. The ribs, cinch those ribs in. And exhale, bring that hand down. Let's inhale forward, knees, chest, and chin. Inhale, up dog. And then tuck the toes back into your down dog. Push the heart through. Then push those heels down. Lift the left leg all the way up. Start to open up the left hip now. Bend the knee. Push that left hip across the midline, across the right hip. Up in the air, opening up. Pushing the right heel down. You can flip your dog if you want here. Otherwise, just work on your alignment. So you're not rotating your upper body. My shoulders and my head are still facing the mat. My right heel pushes down and I'm opening up my left hip. Let's all come back through down dog, realign. And then let's drop that left foot down. Inhale forward to plank, left hand in the middle, and twist off into our side plank. Cinch your ribs in. And let's bring that hand down. And this time, let's just shift forward. Bring the knees down, come all the way down onto our bellies. Let's work a little bit on opening the front of the body. So you might need a strap for this. See if you can reach your feet. If there's absolutely no way you can reach your ankles or feet, you can see if you can reach your pant legs. And if there's no way for that, you can use a strap. So if you can reach your ankles, this might be enough for you. Just opening up your chest slightly, lifting up, long neck. If you want to try and go into a full bow pose, push your ankles into your hands and lift your quads and your knees up off the earth. Breathe. And let's release that down. Let's rest on our hands like a little pillow, windshield wiper those legs. And then from here, sit your hands up alongside your chest. Let's push all the way up and come into a hero's pose. So we're sitting back on those heels. So we're going to come into camel, or at least a partial expression of it. Depends how tight the front of your body is and the front of your hips are. So I'm going to tuck my toes so that we're also getting a stretch in the fascia on the soles of the feet, which is really important for runners too. So this is going to be about opening the front of the body. We're going to put our hands into our low back. We're kind of resting on the top of our glutes. Squeeze those elbows back together. And as if you're peeling from the hips and from the belly button up, push your hips forward first. Push the belly button forward a little bit. And then start to peel up through the chest. And start to drop the head back. Again, strong in the breath. It doesn't need to feel like an extreme stretch. Let's release that back down. Let's bring our hands out again. We're in our tabletop again briefly. And let's come straight back into our down dog. Tuck those toes and come all the way back. From here, let's bring that right leg up in the air again. We're going to set up for pigeon. So you're going to look forward and bring that leg all the way through. So obviously the goal is parallel to the top of the mat. For many of us with tight hips, that's not going to be a reality anytime soon. You can use any props, blankets underneath your pelvis. Your goal is that your pelvis is pointing forward. You're not meant to be off to the side. So it's better to bring the ground up to meet you with the blanket than to allow yourself to kind of just curve off to the side. I'm just going to slowly find my way in on this side. And then when you're ready, you can fold over that front leg and come onto forearms, or drop the chest and the head all the way down. And breathe. Let's start to come back out. I'm going to rest my right hand down. For some people, this might be easy, but often again, people who run or are tight around the hips and quads, this is not so easy. We're going to bend that back leg and try and reach back and find it for a bit of a stretch here. So I'm allowing my pelvis to float. I'm not forcing myself into a twist. I'm just keeping myself aligned to the front of my mat, keeping my chest open. Not forcing myself further than my body really is ready for. Let's lower that down. We're going to come straight back into three-legged dog with that right leg and just draw some circles and change direction, and then drop that foot all the way down. Pedal out your heels. I'm going to set up for the other side. I'm going to lift my left leg high into the air, look at the top of the mat, and swing it through for pigeon. Again, you're better off giving yourself time to shimmy around and find your expression of pigeon than to just force yourself to get in quickly. I would often use like a blanket rolled long ways across under my pelvis. But just find your way in slowly. When you're happy that your pelvis is still facing the same direction, you're not twisted off that way. You're going to come down onto the forearms. You can put blocks to come down onto, or cushions. And then slowly come down to rest your forehead on your hands if that's open to you. And then just release. So at this point, the ground is holding you. So you really want to notice as you cycle through your breath that your body's letting go. And if it's not, you might not be supported enough. Again, like at this point now, I can feel more opening, even though I've been in here for 5 or 6 breaths. So just allowing the opening and the kind of passive release and stretch to occur as you just let go and allow the ground to hold you. And if you're ready, we're going to slowly come back up. I'm going to rest my left hand, kind of like a kickstand, so it's helping me to keep my balance because I'm not able to go all the way upright because of tightness in the front. You can see how curved and rounded I am. I'm going to bend that right leg so I'm on that knee. Now it's definitely tighter on this side. It might look like that too. So I'm just going to kind of honor where I am. So try and keep myself aligned while still getting a little bit of a stretch in the quads there. I'm not really forcing it. I'm not pulling that leg hard. It's opening, it's tight. I'm not feeling it around the kneecap, which is good. I'm feeling it in the middle of the muscle belly. So I'm feeling it in here. And it's releasing and letting go. I'm just going to hang out. So it's not like forceful. And then let that go. I'm going to try and come straight up into our three-legged dog. Draw circles with the big toe. Change direction. Draw circles. Drop that foot down. Now, nice and open. I'm going to let my heart come through. And then I'm going to push those heels down towards the mat for a nice open expression of down dog. Maybe releasing an exhale through the mouth. I'm going to look up at my hands. I'm going to step my right foot all the way up first. I'm going to rock in a little runner's lunge for a moment. Step my left foot all the way up, forward fold, holding those ankles. And from here, I'm going to put my hands back down. And I'm actually going to step my right foot all the way back. A small bit of a rock in a runner's lunge here. And then I'm going to turn towards the right side of my mat. I'm going to let my feet be parallel or toes slightly in. Come straight into a wide-legged forward fold. And again, you can let your knees be a little bent here if they need to be. As long as you don't feel strain on the outside of your ankles, you're not too wide. And just start to let your body release. So I still have my palms, my hands firmly on the ground. So I'm supporting myself, not letting myself go too far. I'm not feeling strain on the outside of my ankle, so I know I'm not too wide. I'm letting there be a softness in my knees. I'm not forcing them straight. And I'm getting the openings. You're getting it in your hamstrings. You're getting it on the insides of your legs, your adductors rather. Let's walk the hands all the way to the left ankle. And hug our body towards that left leg. Let's walk our hands all the way to the right ankle. Hug our body towards that right leg. And then come all the way back. Runner's lunge, left leg at the front of the mat. Let's bring the right foot all the way up to meet it. Forward fold. Really pushing our legs straighter now as we pull our body towards our legs. And then I'm going to let go of that. Bring my feet out to the side. I'm going to put my feet on 45-degree angles, toes out. I'm going to sit straight down into my prayer squat. Hands are or elbows rather, on the inside of those knees. So using my arms to make those hips a little wider, but I'm still going to keep my heart open and look up, straight back. My spine is straight, my tailbone dropping down. You can always sit on a block for this if this is too challenging. And then I'm going to just drop my foot straight down. We're going to go into a staff pose. So we're sitting up nice and tall in our sitting bones. Again, my pelvis is not tilted back. I'm going to flex my feet and we're going to do a little forward fold. Allow there to be softness in the knees as needed. We're trying to fold our body in half, not round the top. So first of all, I'm just going to try and get my belly towards my thighs. So my chest stays up. So I'm allowing there to be a bend and I'm allowing the belly and the thighs to meet. And then I'm going to think about actually folding. So don't round until the very last thing that you do. Start to release. I'm holding the soles of my feet, or you can hold behind your calves, your ankles, wherever your hands get is fine. Don't force it. Your arms should not be working super hard here. So my hands are loose, my elbows are bent. I'm not like cranking myself down. And breathe and release with every exhale. Again, even in my biggest expression of it, my legs are not straight. I'm not forcing that because I don't need it. I'm getting plenty of stretch already. And slowly making your way back up. And from here, bring your feet to the end of the mat. Starting to lower yourself back down and bring yourself all the way down into a laying down position. Let's bring our knees up into our chest and hug them, rock side to side. Let's come straight into a happy baby, reaching through the middle, grabbing our ankles or your calves or your shins rather, wherever you land. Flex those feet, rock side to side. Our sacrum loves this position because it opens up the low back and the sacroiliac joints. Good for the hamstrings, the hips. And then let's grab those big toes. Kick our heels up towards the ceiling, straightening those legs best you can, and then a nice wide straddle, grabbing of those big toes. So again, we're kind of following on with stretching out the soles of the feet at the same time as the backs of the legs. And then spring those legs back together and bring them all the way down. So clench in your rib cage and lower them down with control. And we're right back onto our backs. One hand on the belly, one hand on the rib cage, or rather the chest. I'm letting go. And every exhale, allowing the ground to hold you now again. The hands can stay here or they can go down by the side. The legs are relaxed and wide and the feet splayed out. With every exhale, the shoulders peel down, back towards the earth. And here you are in your Shavasana, surrendering to the stillness, allowing all that new opening and that increased circulation to benefit you now. Picturing with every inhale, the whole body fills with air. Every exhale, the whole body empties out. No effort or holding on left in the body. Surrendering to stillness and allowing the body to rest. Deepening the breath now. In and out of the nose. On your next inhale, fill all the way up. Open the mouth. Sigh it out. Let's start to bring some movement back into the body now. Wiggling the fingers and the toes. Maybe starting to circle out the ankles and the wrists. Bring the legs together, touching and pointing away, and reach those arms overhead. One big long line of energy. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Then let's hug those knees into the chest. Rock side to side slightly before settling onto one side for a moment. The breath is fluid and easy. Using your hands, let's bring ourselves all the way back up into a comfortable seated position. The eyes can be closed or the gaze can be down. Let's bring those hands together in prayer at heart center. Let's use those thumbs to kind of push that pelvis, puffing out the heart, shoulders back, spine long, crown of the head pointing up. Feeling nice and strong and open and fluid after our flow. Thank you for letting me guide you through your practice. I hope it was useful. I hope you can use it again and again to open up those areas of the body that you need to. Thank you for sharing with me. Namaste. So that was a practice for runners. I hope it was useful, and I think it kind of hit a lot of the areas, and hopefully it made you think about what your body needs to be good with running and injury prevention, and what areas of the body you actually did need to open up. And we can build on this in a future class and focus specifically on some of those areas if needs be. So I hope it's useful and enjoy, and thank you for practicing.